morning. Today's another one of our first fives. I hope this week finds you doing well. The sun's been shining more, the temperatures have been warming up. Hopefully you don't find yourself in a place of despair. However, the truth is, I don't care who you are, all of us at some time, at some point, have found ourselves in places where we feel despair. We feel like we're alone. We're talking this week about solitude and finding that it's different than isolation, and we want to rest in the presence of God. But I also think there's some good news for us if we are feeling like we're isolated, if we are feeling like God is not present. Sometimes we feel like we have to act like we have it all together, that we can't go to God and say, God, I'm struggling, I'm hurting, I'm alone. Because we think if we do that, it shows a lack of faith. Yet what's fascinating for me is that when I look throughout the scriptures, I see again and again some of the pillars of our faith who went to God frustrated, angry, lost, hurt, and they found that God continued to be present with them in the middle of that. In fact, what we find again and again is whether it's in the Psalms or in other places, we see that we can cry out to God. We can truly say, God, I'm frustrated with you. I'm angry with you. Why did you let this happen? Where are you in the middle of this? And so I want to encourage you today, if you feel like you need to go to God and say, God, I don't know where you are, then do it. Because he's there. So I'm going to read a passage from Jeremiah chapter 20 in just a moment. And Jeremiah was a prophet of God. It's one of the longest books of the Old Testament. And Jeremiah, he felt called, he knew he was called by God to speak to the nation of Israel, to call them back to a particular way of life, to tell them that God was calling them to turn from the ways in which they had been living and to come back to him. In fact, when I was in college, I took an Old Testament course, and we studied the book of Jeremiah. This is the largest commentary I own. And a commentary is just a book on the scriptures. And in this commentary, there's all kinds of things about Jeremiah, but one of the things I love about it is the author of the commentary lets us know that Jeremiah was like you and I. He was frustrated. He was kind of sensitive, actually. He got his feelings hurt. And so I love this text. And love is not maybe the right word, but I like this text. Because when I read it from Jeremiah chapter 20, I know that when I'm feeling alone or isolated or hurt, I can go to God and he hears me. And so hear these words from Jeremiah chapter 20. It begins this way in verse 7. O Lord, you deceived me, and I was deceived. You overpowered me and prevailed. I am ridiculed all day long. Everyone mocks me. Jeremiah was mocked for the words he taught, and he was mocked publicly. It wasn't even secretive. Jumping ahead to verse 11. But the Lord is with me like a mighty warrior. So my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. They will fail and be thoroughly disgraced. Their dishonor will never be forgotten. So it looks like Jeremiah is like, all right, I may have felt like God duped me and God's present with me, but he's going to take care of it in the end. But then this next passage, I want you to hear these words. Verse 14, cursed be the day I was born. May the day my mother bore me not be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought my father the news, who made him very glad, saying, a child is born to you, a son. May that man be like the towns the Lord overthrew without pity. May he hear wailing in the morning, a battle cry at noon, for he did not kill me in the womb, with my mother as my grave, her womb enlarged forever. Why did I ever come out of the womb? To see trouble and sorrow, and to end my days in shame. I don't know if you caught that, but Jeremiah is basically saying, why am I alive? I wish I had never been born. My life feels so overwhelming that I don't know what to do. Have you ever found yourself there? Feeling as if your life is so overwhelmed you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, you don't know where to turn. I have good news for you today. We talk about this when we talk about the practice of solitude as what we know as the dark night of the soul. These moments in life when we sense that God might be absent, but what we find after the fact is God was present the whole time. That in those moments when God seems most absent, it's probably the moments when he is most near. It's probably the moments in which we are most vulnerable. But the hope for us is Jesus comes to say again and again, I am present with you in these moments. Will you trust in me? Will you lean into me? Will you trust that my Father can take your anger, your hurt, your frustration? Will you trust your brothers and sisters in me, in Christ, your brothers and sisters in the church? Will you entrust them when you're beaten down and you're broken and you're hurting? We allow them to be present with you. So when you sense this dark night of the soul, as Jeremiah pours out his heart here, that we find we're not isolated, that God really is present with us. We find that hope does really begin to reign. And if you've ever found yourself feeling like Jeremiah, crying out, why me? Why me, God? I thought you were so good, and yet I feel so bad. God takes that, and he comforts us. And he's present with us. And he gives us hope. And he desires for us to know his love is present in the good times and in the bad. And so this week, hopefully you're not feeling isolated and alone. Hopefully the sunshine is a beautiful thing for you. But if you find yourself in that place struggling, know that you're not alone. And there's a long line of heroes of the faith who even though they felt like they were alone, they begin to see glimpses and God was present with them in their lives. And so my hope for you today is take courage that Jeremiah knew God, that in Jeremiah's dark night of the soul, God was still present and God will still be present in yours as well. And here's the hope for us. There will be a day when there's no more tears and no more pain and no more sorrow, and God will redeem all things that are broken or restore the world to the way it was intended to be. And until that day, God promises that his kingdom will be present with us in these moments. And that's the message Jesus came to share, that we're not alone, that even when we feel like we're alone, he's there. And so my challenge, my invitation for you today is this: to rest in God's presence, to rest in silence, knowing that God is near, to know that when you need to cry out, God desires to comfort you. And he reminds us through the person of Jesus that he offers us his spirit, his hope, his love. May your day be filled with grace, hope, and love, and we'll see you tomorrow.